he's shot in a toy store. It starts off with him. He's like the Lakeshore Strangler, I believe, and he's obviously a real person, played by Brad Dourif, the guy who does the voice. Actually comes out in the movie in the first like maybe 10 minutes, and he has a shootout with this detective in a toy store where ultimately he's gunned down, right? But he practiced. I guess he was a voodoo practitioner or something, and he basically puts his soul right before he dies. He puts his soul. He does a spell, the spell that they do in this film, and puts his soul into the doll. Okay. So everybody thinks that he passed away, but he really is possessing the good guy doll now. Okay. So. In that time frame, it's like late 80s. Good guy dolls in that universe are the hot item. Okay. Much like something that was hot for this past Christmas, the Hatchimals. Hatchimals, Think of him as like a Hatchimals now.
That wouldn't be scary at all. I know they have into it, but yeah.
Anyway, so we are introduced to a mother and her son, who is Andy, Andy Barkley. And because this good guy doll is such a hot item, you can't find him anywhere. He's all sold out everywhere, right? Okay. And so this homeless peddler comes across what is the possessed Chucky doll, and he's trying to sell it for a profit, sling it on the side. And who comes across? The mom of Andy. Okay. And she gets it for what she thinks is a good price, and that's how he's introduced to Andy. And ultimately, Chucky tells his secret. I guess in the mythology, his secret is that he's really Charles Lee Ray. And I guess once he's told that to Andy, he has to pass his soul into Andy's body within a certain amount of time. Otherwise, he's stuck as a good guy doll forever. Okay. And a really important piece, and why he bleeds and stuff like a real person, is because according to the voodoo stuff, after a certain amount of time, you start turning into he starts becoming more like a human inside, and that's why he can be hurt. When you shoot him, he bleeds and all kinds of stuff, and that's why he's in a rush to kind of get to Andy. And that's why there's that chase there.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
With that being said, I have another podcast from a few years ago that Don Mancini did, the creator of the franchise, and he directed Child's Play 2, giving kind of like a little bit of backstory on this film and where he was at and his mindset then. Okay. Do you guys want to hear it?
Yeah.
Okay, here it is.
I actually really like this movie a lot.
Thank you.
This is actually, because this is kind of the one that's a little bit more like what I thought the original Child's Play was going to be from the trailers, where it's focused a lot more on almost like an episode of a sitcom where there's like a nice kid and then the mean kid's doing all the horrible things and everyone thinks that the nice kid's doing like a Mr. Belvedere or Hey Dude. But what's interesting to me about this film is that you're writing it again, but you're stuck with all the things that they came up with in Child's Play 1 that you didn't come up with.
Right. The voodoo mythology.
The voodoo mythology, Charles Lee Ray as a character. Was that easy, hard to wrap your head around?
No, but I mean, by that point, I was on board. And I didn't have a choice. I mean, I obviously I cannot be objective about this. Naturally, I felt my original concept was better. Legions of people disagree. So
they haven't seen your original vision.
They never will. But that's the thing. I'm just trying to be generous to the people that came up with that mythology.
Right, no, it's a lot of fun. I'm definitely not decrying it in any way.
But I'm decrying it. It's stupid.
But you embraced it.
Ade due tempora. Yes, we had no choice but to embrace it. But I think John Lafia also we were of like minds regarding that, and we wanted to minimize it as much as possible. Right. I mean, we still were stuck with the notion that Tom Holland had created this idea that Chucky needed to transfer his soul specifically into Andy Barclay.
And I never understood the rule there, where it's like it's the first person you revealed.
Well, it's utterly contrived.
The babysitter, then, wouldn't it?
No, I think he means it quite literally. That like he literally said, "My name is Charles Lee Ray."
Okay, that does make it better. Okay,
but it's still you kind of have to make a leap. You kind of have to make a leap, and you just kind of go with it. And I think people do. But we tried to minimize that as much as possible. And it is useful as a plot momentum mechanism. It's like it gives Chucky a very specific goal. I have to get to this kid to transfer. I mean, I was always ambivalent at best about the whole idea of that Chucky having that goal. I just thought well, why can't this just be a doll that likes to kill people? Anyway, we had that, so we used it, and it is useful. It is a useful mechanism.
Now, you had the interesting task of bringing a villain back to life in a horror movie. And I thought that's always kind of fun in a sequel. You look at this a lot in like the Christopher Lee Dracula movies, where we vaporized them. How do we do this? We're going to have to spend like half an hour. And you had a very clever way to do it, which is now that the company has been discredited by this killer doll incident, they're going to reassemble the original doll just to prove that there's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
Whose idea was that? Was that just you coming up like, I got it, middle of the night?
I actually think that specific idea might have been John LaFia's. I can't remember.
Okay.
I do know that with that idea and with this whole movie, I was able to bring back from my original script that didn't make it into the first movie, a little bit more of a focus on that company, and the machinations of the marketing and the good guy dolls and the factory, which this movie has the climax in the factory. That was the location of the climax in my original script. So that, one of the nice things about doing sequels and ad infinitum is that like anything that doesn't quite feel right for this movie, you just put it in a file, in a drawer, and then it's like you can recycle it for later. And there were a number of things in this movie that were holdovers from my original script.
I imagine the death of the teacher.
Yes,
it's definitely
absolutely
like part of the original concept.
Yes, that again, because in my original script, because the doll was specifically targeting Andy's enemies.
Yeah.
Now it's his teacher who's mean to him, and that's so. In Child's Play 2, in a way, he has no real compelling need to kill her other than that he just likes to kill, which is fine. But again, his original impetus was he's going after enemies of the boy whose id he is expressing. So yeah, the teacher, the factory.
I noticed that there's a lot more childlike elements. Well, part of it is the score, which is a lot more music box, but also there's a lot of references to storybooks. Reading Pinocchio, he's tied up like Gulliver's Travels at one point. Was that all intentional, or am I just being a pretentious film?
No, okay. That's true. Absolutely. Yeah. And again, these, I think elements that were in my original script for Child's Play 1 that fell by the wayside and that we wanted to bring into this movie and kind of, just make it a kind of inverted fairy tale. I mean, I think that the first movie, because it has, especially in its second half, it becomes a weird detective story. And the focus, it becomes this like policier movie, with a doll as,
it takes so long for the parents to come on board and figure out what's going on, so you have to do that organically.
And it's a problem because the audience is already totally ahead. We're watching Chris Sarandon and Catherine Nixon.
Well, it adds this element of frustration, and I've seen this in almost every movie where a child sees something horrible and the parents don't believe him.
Yeah.
Where it's just, I've vowed, and I think a lot of people in my generation have vowed that when I have kids and they tell me my doll's killing people, I'll be like, okay, well, we're getting the fuck rid of that doll. That doll is evil. I just trust you on this.
Right, better safe than sorry. Right?
I don't care, there's a monster in my closet. Okay, we're going to move. And I think these movies are kind of part of that, and I think in this one you get way more into Andy as a character, because in the first film, Andy's kind of blank. He's just an innocent kid.
Yeah.
And here we sense his frustration, we sense his fear. There's a great scene where he decides to, like, I'm going to start trying to get over my fear of this doll so I can stay with this foster family, because what else am I going to do?
That's one of my favorite things in that movie, is his deciding that since he's living with the foster family, and they already have a good guy doll there, which of course looks exactly like Chucky, he takes it upon himself to be down with it, you know. It's just like I'm cool with this doll, and of course then Chucky comes into the household, kills the Tommy doll named after Tom Holland.
Oh, nice.
Well, we thought he would appreciate that. I mean, it's an homage to Tom Holland, and he buries him in the backyard and then assumes his role. That just seemed hilariously Hitchcockian with dolls.
All right, that was the interview. Jumping back into the questions.
He was throwing some shade at the original.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could tell he didn't like it.
Yeah,
he even said he didn't like it, but
yeah,
I mean,
they kind of took. I feel like they took like bits and pieces from him, and then just put their own spin on it, and that's very interesting that he's against the voodoo. That myth, like the mythos that they kind of created, but he's went along with it out of respect. That's insane, because I feel like this is kind of his brainchild. Like, this is what he's known for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But moving on, do you guys have a favorite scene from Child's Play 2?
Drive before I kick your fucking teeth in.
Do you have a favorite scene?
My favorite scene would probably be towards the showdown in the crazy factory.
Okay.
Because the stacks are the good guys when you go in there. It's so creepy, you know what I mean? Because they know that he's pursuing them, and that he's going to be around any corner that they turn, you know, and there's just like his face all over.
Everywhere, yeah.
And I feel like that was done intentionally, and it kind of plays out like the end of The Shining, when he's in the maze of the bushes, and he doesn't know where Jack's gonna be at, and it's pretty fun, and you can see like a lot of how do you say, like influences from older films, as he was saying in the interview. But I would think that's my favorite scene, when he's like, "Oh, I hate kids."
yeah.
I'm fucking infamous.
I think my favorite scene is when he checks his back, when he looks in the back of the doll to see if there's like fleshy bits, because in the first one.
No, I well, not to cut you off, but it was to check to see if he really had batteries and stuff. And Chucky was so smart that he took the batteries from Tommy, the other doll that he
put him in himself.
Put him in himself, so that he wouldn't think about it.
Oh well, I remember in the first one he had like the flesh. When you opened it up, you could see like the flesh. Or was that the first one, or was that one of the other ones?
That's probably the other ones, because in the first one he still had batteries.
Oh, because
he was slowly changing, but at that point he wasn't.
You know what I'm talking about, though? It was like when you could see his flesh in his back. No. Well, anyway, that's one of my favorite scenes. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Probably one of my favorite scenes is it's a little scene, but when what's just the girl's name? Kyle.
Yeah.
When she pulls up on the car behind the mail truck, and like he's about to do the seance or whatever, and the lights hit him, and then he just flips her off. Yeah, I thought that was great. But yeah, I think that's a really cool part. And then the part where the foster dad falls down the stairs and he's hanging upside down. He's like, "Oh, hey, how's it hanging, Phil?" There's little things like that, like little one-liners and stuff. Those are pretty cool.
Yeah, he's good.
I like when the guy gets impaled by the eyeballs.
Oh, yeah.
On the machine.
That's
really cool.
something as a kid that made me very that scared the shit out of me. More than even Chucky. Just like that visual.
Just that happening.
Because it's like that, nobody wants anything to happen to their orifices. Yeah. It's a big thing, even in the back of your mind. So that was genius, that they really show it. My next question for you guys, is there anything you didn't like or that you would change about this one? Because just because it's my favorite, I know it doesn't have to be your guys' favorite. So let's talk about anything, if there's anything that you didn't like too much.
The acting could have been a little bit better.
For who?
For the parents.
I was gonna say that too.
Yeah.
Oh, the foster parents?
Yeah.
Yeah, they feel
Like
very
cheesy,
kind of disjointed, you know,
Yeah.
like very
like disconnected from the movie.
Yeah,
almost.
Yeah, but one can argue that was on purpose because he was put into a foster family, and I feel like that we can relate to that, right?
Yeah.
Being kind of foster kids for a while, there is